I understand that it's frightening, but you can't keep living your life like this. You've got to try something. And Dr. Oberon is the best." The concern in my Aunt Kelly's eyes was so sweet and sincere that it made me want to puke. This was the third intervention my family had held. Yet another attempt to get me to move out of my parents' basement, find a job, and have a normal life. "We didn't want it to come to this, Brady," my father was saying. "But this time you forced our hand. You've got to make a change." That was an easy thing to say for someone who didn't live in constant fear of the 24th letter of the alphabet. It started sometime around my 10th birthday. I would swoon and pass out in class, or be overcome by crying fits for no apparent reason. Everyone suspected the worst, and then a pattern began to emerge. It wasn't an undetected tumor or a rare neurological disorder. It was just those two innocent crossed lines. Sick as it sounds, I think my parents were almost disappointed. My condition wasn't something that people ran marathons for. There were no TV commercials with sappy music about the fear of a letter. From the very beginning, they thought I was the problem. I just wasn't trying hard enough to overcome my phobia. Then my Aunt Kelly came into the picture. Aunt Kelly was the successful one. The one who everyone in our family was told to emulate. She was a doctor, married with 2 kids, and had even been featured in the local newspaper. One talent Aunt Kelly did not have, however, was keeping her mouth shut. She was constantly telling her elite medical coworkers about my condition, hoping that one of them could provide a miracle cure. Thanks to Aunt Kelly, I had tried everything from cognitive behavioral therapy to designer drugs that weren't even on the market. None of it had helped, and Aunt Kelly was getting desperate, maybe even more so than my parents. My phobia was the one problem she wasn't able to solve, the one puzzle piece in her life that she couldn't just force into place. As a result, her suggestions grew successively stranger. According to Aunt Kelly, Dr. Oberon was one of the best hypnotherapists on the East Coast. When she told him about my case, he had taken a personal interest in it. He was willing to see me for a fraction of his usual fee. My parents were overjoyed by the news, but I was skeptical. Then and there, I made up my mind to secretly record the session on my phone, before this doctor put me under hypnosis. After all the false promises and snake oil treatment that Aunt Kelly's last round of experts had promised me, I wanted to have some evidence of my own. Something that I could use to get out of being sent to some wacky meditation retreat, or forced to do a cranberry juice detox. More than that, however, I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to hear, in my own hypnotized words, why I was so afraid of something so absurd. Dr. Oberon's office didn't have the fancy facade or smiling, robot-like receptionist that I was used to. There wasn't any marble lobby, tropical plants, or ambient music. It was located in an ugly 70s-era strip mall, with nothing nearby but a few apartments and an overgrown park. The stained carpet was mustard-colored. The fluorescent lights hummed and flickered. The waiting area featured 2 thrift store chairs, and a coffee table whose laminate wood coating was beginning to peel off. It wasn't a promising start. Just as my parents were swapping a glance, the office door opened and Dr. Oberon himself stepped out to greet us. The atmosphere in the room changed immediately. Even I felt the tension go out of my shoulders. Dr. Oberon looked just how I imagined a hypnotherapist should look. Earth-tone clothes, neatly trimmed goatee, tortoiseshell glasses. His handshake was warm, but not pushy. It almost felt like we knew each other already. He talked to me, not only to my parents, and made it clear what was going to happen. We would start by practicing a few hypnosis techniques to see which worked best for me. From there, we would begin to investigate my memories from around the time when my phobia had begun. Dr. Oberon doubted that we would finish in a single session, but it all depended on how much progress we made. When I told him that I'd never been hypnotized before, he just laughed.
"There's a door into everyone's mind," he said. "All you have to do is find it."
My parents weren't thrilled about spending an hour in the grimy waiting room, and decided to do some shopping before picking me up after the session. My condition had put a strain on my relationship with my parents, and ordinarily, parting was a relief. But not that day. As Dr. Oberon led me inside, I felt a sudden urge to grab my father's hand and beg him to let me leave with them. Then the moment passed. The door closed on my parents' concerned faces, and I followed Dr. Oberon into his office. There was something comfortable about the sparse and shabby furniture. I don't need to rely on appearances, it seemed to say. I rely on results. As I sat on the lumpy plaid couch, I realized that, for the first time in a long time, I actually had hope that a treatment could work. I might actually be able to live a normal life again. It made me feel guilty about recording the session without Dr. Oberon's knowledge, but I had promised myself that I would. And a promise is a promise. Before I laid down and closed my eyes, I reached into my pocket and hit the record button on my phone. 45 minutes later, I opened my eyes.
"All done,"
Dr. Oberon said with a smile. I scratched my head. I didn't feel any different. It was just like waking up from a long, restful nap. I barely remembered to reach into my pocket and furtively turn off the recording.
"It might take some time for the treatment to show results,"
Dr. Oberon told my parents when they arrived.
"But I am confident in the outcome."
I couldn't help but agree. As I walked out of the office, I no longer felt that crushing helplessness that I usually did when circumstances forced me to go outside. I was no longer dreading that a sudden, unanticipated encounter with that letter would send me into a panic attack. There was a new spring in my step when I followed my parents into the house, and I went directly to my room to listen to my recording. I wanted to see what Dr. Oberon had done. The first few minutes were so warped and distorted that I almost gave up on the whole thing. It was as though the pitch of whatever was happening was beyond the range of what my cell phone could record. Then things stabilized, and Dr. Oberon began to speak.
"Can you hear me, Brady?"
Dr. Oberon asked. "Yes," I heard myself reply. A shiver went up my spine. I barely recognized my voice. It was toneless, dead, mechanical, hypnotized.
"There's a letter you're afraid of, Brady. Would you mind telling me which one it is?"
The letter X. Even in the safety of my bedroom, just hearing it made my heart race. I wanted to scream. Why me? I wondered. Why did I have to be so frightened of such a ridiculous thing?
"Now, Brady, I want you to think back to the week before your phobia began. Can you do that for me?"
"Yes."
"What do you see?"
"A playground. I'm looking out a car window. There's lots of leaves on the trees. It's summer. My parents are taking me to the park to play with my friends. The radio is on. It's talking about a kid who went missing in town. My mother switches it off."
"Who were you meeting at the park that day, Brady?"
"My friends. Alec and Jocelyn."
"Tell me about them."
Alec and I became friends in kindergarten. He was on the bigger side and got bullied a lot for it. Most of the kids in our class never knew what a funny, talented guy he was. Jocelyn had just transferred to our school earlier that week, and she was the only girl I'd ever met who liked to skateboard. We didn't really have a plan for what we wanted to do that day. Swing from the monkey bars, toss a ball around, stomp around in the woods beside the park.
"What happened next?"
I get out of the car. I wave goodbye to my parents and hello to Alec's mom. She's sitting on a bench smoking a cigarette. I'm relieved that she's the one watching us because she usually lets us do pretty much whatever we want. Alec is sitting on top of the monkey bars. Jocelyn is kicking a ball as hard as she can against a cinder block wall. She aims at me next. I duck the ball and laugh. It rolls to a stop against the wooden tower beside the monkey bars. There's
Go on, Brady.
one of them carved into the ground. An X. Like someone dragged their feet through the mulch again and again to make it. I point it out to Alec. He laughs and says that maybe we should dig for buried treasure. I tell him I don't think that's a good idea. Not at all. I feel cold all of a sudden. There's something wrong about that letter. Like it doesn't belong there. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. Jocelyn changes the subject right away. She says something about how she saw a deer skull by the entrance to the park, and how we should go check it out. We leave the X behind. That day. I scratched my head. I could recall Alec and Jocelyn well enough, even if I hadn't seen them in years. And everyone in town remembered the rash of disappearances that happened in the early 2000s. But I had no memory of the afternoon that I had just described to Dr. Oberon.
Are you saying that you saw that letter again on a different day, Brady?
We met at the park again a week later. It's a holiday. 4th of July, I think. I'm excited about the fireworks and the hamburgers that my dad's going to grill later. This time, Jocelyn's dad is keeping an eye on us. He's a tall, bald guy who wears his polo shirt tucked in, and his pants buckled up so high that I can see his socks. He's the polar opposite of Alec's mom, always yelling at us to get down from that tree or don't run so fast. The whole afternoon is sort of lame, and I can tell that Jocelyn's embarrassed. Alec's mom shows up at sunset, and he hops into her truck like he can't wait to be gone. My own parents are late. Jocelyn's dad keeps checking his watch and scowling at me. He clearly has someplace to be, but he doesn't want the guilt of leaving a child alone. I tell him not to worry, that there are plenty of people in the park, and I'm sure my own parents will show up at any minute. With one last look at his watch, he grabs Jocelyn by the wrist and practically drags her to the minivan. It's twilight now, and the sky is clouded over. There aren't many streetlights in the park, and the happy couples and dog walkers are all gone. I'm starting to get genuinely worried. My parents have been late before, but never like this. On the other side of the man-made lake at the center of the park, someone is setting off fireworks. The bright reds and greens and purples light up the sky, and I see that I'm not the only kid left in the park. There's a blonde boy about my age, coming down the paved trail by the woods. He's dancing. It's like a waltz, except he's all alone. And if there's any music, I can't hear it over the noise of the fireworks. There's something wrong with the smile on his face. It almost looks stapled in place. A younger boy is running after him, tugging at his sleeves, trying to get him to stop. Then, when they reach the tree line, the blonde boy stops. The smaller kid, who looks like he's probably his brother, suddenly seems afraid. "Stop it, Cameron," he starts yelling. "What's wrong with you?" The kid called Cameron picks up the smaller boy, throws him over his shoulder, and starts dancing off with him, twirling away into the woods. The smaller kid is screaming, but the fireworks drown it out. I take one last look around for my parents. Their car is nowhere in sight, so I jog down the hill. By the time I get there, the pair have already gone into the trees. I hesitate. I've never been so far into the forest that I couldn't see the playground on the hill, and especially not at night. Then I hear the smaller kid scream again. I push aside the bushes and go into the woods, shouting after him. It's dark. I can only see by the colorful explosions of the fireworks. I catch a flash of Cameron's yellow hair, or of the smaller kid's pale legs sticking up in the air. Then they're gone. I hear a sort of clicking noise, like a wooden box being latched shut. I'm suddenly afraid that this was all some kind of trap. For some reason, I imagine the blonde boy creeping up behind me with an insane smile on his face. But it's quiet. Wherever the pair have gone, they're beyond my reach now. The fireworks have stopped. It's starting to rain. From the park behind me, I can hear my parents frantically calling my name. I follow the sound of their voices out to the parking lot, where both of them throw their arms around me. Their car had broken down while they were shopping on the other side of town, and it had taken them hours to get moving again. As they hug me and walk me back to the car, I look over my shoulder at the forest. The blonde boy, Cameron, comes out of the trees. He's still doing that weird, sick dance. He moves up to the playground and uses his foot to draw that letter in the mulch, right beside the first one. Then he waltzes off. I want to tell my parents, but he's already gone, and the whole experience was just too strange. In the car, I start to sniffle. I can feel myself coming down with something. This time, I remembered what I had told Dr. Oberon. Mostly. Jocelyn's killjoy father waiting around the park until after dark, and having a fever for the next couple of days. The kid in the woods, though, that was new. I continued listening.
Did you ever tell anyone else about what you saw?
Yes. Later that July at Alex's house. It's his birthday. We're in the basement eating pizza and playing Sonic the Hedgehog on Alex's Dreamcast. Upstairs, the TV is on, and I can hear Alex's mom cracking open beers for the adults. When the three of us are alone, I tell them both about what happened in the park after they left. Alec thinks I'm bullshitting them. Jocelyn isn't so sure. They both want to meet at the park that Saturday to investigate the woods. Discussing the experience again is nerve-wracking, and my throat has gone dry. I go upstairs for some more Mountain Dew. As I'm on my way back, the football game on the adults' television is interrupted by an update on the search for the two missing children in our area. The newscaster is interviewing a middle-aged woman and her son. The boy's little brother is missing. It's Cameron, the blonde boy I saw in the woods. In the meantime, some other kids have shown up, and I have to go home before I get a chance to tell Alec and Jocelyn what I just learned.
Did you meet your friends at the park that Saturday?
I don't think so. Not exactly. My parents were concerned about the disappearances. Better safe than sorry, they're saying. They're making me stay home. I'm tearing up and getting red-faced. I slam the door to my bedroom and try to call Alex's house, but it's too late. All I can do is look out the window at the power lines and treetops, knowing that Alec and Jocelyn are out there, solving the mystery without me. It's not fair. It was eerie, hearing my 20-year-old mouth replicate so perfectly the tone of voice I'd had as a child. Downstairs, I can hear that my parents are having some friends over. They're talking, laughing, eating the nasty, fancy food that adults eat when they have parties. They've forgotten all about me. My parents locked my bedroom door, but not the window. It's easy to climb out onto the roof above the kitchen and shimmy down the drain pipe. And the park can't be more than a few miles away. I know the way there. I think. Cars are whizzing by. A few miles is a lot further than I thought. I've never gone so far by myself before. And the sheer bigness of the world is suddenly overwhelming. I wonder if maybe my parents were right to worry about those missing kids. Upon reaching the park, I discover that they aren't the only ones. The playground is deserted. Ever since the news of the third disappearance hit, no one is letting their children out to play. Well, almost no one. There's one truck in the parking lot, and it belongs to Alec's mom. She was probably supposed to be watching Alec and Jocelyn while they played, but she's sitting behind the wheel with her hangover shades on, and she's fast asleep. I figure that my friends must be in the woods already. It isn't hard to see where they've gone. Alec's basketball and Jocelyn's skateboard are leaning up against a big shagbark hickory at the edge of the tree line. It looks to be the same place that I saw Cameron walk out of the woods on the 4th of July. There's even a faint path through the undergrowth. I follow it. Alec, Jocelyn, and I have been back here before. There's a half-collapsed treehouse that Alec found last year up ahead. And past that, an enormous, moldy tire. It's the border between the part of the woods we know and whatever lies beyond. The day is hotter than usual, even for summer. There's sweat running down my face and back, and I can hear cicadas humming in the trees. I keep following the path. It branches several times, and I take the biggest fork each time. I'm starting to think I'm going in circles when I finally hear their voices up ahead. It's Alec and Jocelyn. They're stooping by the edge of a dark, scummy pond. Jocelyn is speculating that the kids might be dead, and that maybe their bodies are hidden inside. Alec throws a stone. It sends ripples racing across the dark water. I decide to give them a scare. There's an old fence and some overgrown concrete blocks beside the pond. I use them to sneak up on my unsuspecting friends. Just as I'm about to jump out from behind them, I hear that clicking noise again. The one that sounded like a wooden box being unlatched. It was very, very close to me. Alec and Jocelyn hear it too. They look at each other, and are about to start searching the pond, when the music starts.
Music?
Someone is playing a flute. A slow, haunting melody that makes my eyes glaze over. As the beat picks up, I notice that my legs are beginning to move. They're dancing on their own. The music is affecting Alec and Jocelyn, too. Their faces have gone slack, just like a shopping mall mannequin's. And Alec is starting to shuffle his feet. I cover my ears. Whatever the song is doing, it affects Jocelyn the least. She turns and tries to run, but Alec grabs her wrist. She kicks and scratches, but something about the music is making him stronger than usual, able to push his body past its ordinary limits. But Jocelyn fighting. Then the others begin to come out of the woods.
The others?
The other missing kids. They're all there. Cameron's little brother. A tall girl with braces who was the first to go missing. They're dancing. They grab Jocelyn and twirl off with her. I can't see where they're going. Alec doesn't want to be participating in any of this, but he's a prisoner in his own body. I follow him as he waltzes back out of the woods and up to the playground, where he uses his foot to carve another one of those letters in the mulch. Now, there are 5 of them. Someone else is watching too. Behind me, I hear that clacking sound again. It's probably the flute being put back in its box. Now that the music has stopped, it feels like we're both waking up from a dream. Alec walks down the hill rubbing his shoulder. He asks me what I'm doing here. I don't know what to say. I can't remember. The lingering effects of the music cause everything that happened in the last several hours to slip into the deepest depths of my memory. Alec asks where Jocelyn is. I tell him that her father probably picked her up early again. To both of us, that seems like a reasonable enough explanation. I go home, climb back up the drain pipe, and crawl into bed. From the sounds of the party downstairs, the adults never suspected I was gone. I sleep until the next morning. Over 17 hours. When I wake up, the supper my mother left for me has gone cold outside my door. When I wake up, I've completely forgotten about what happened in the woods. When I wake up, I am terrified of the letter X. Anytime I see that letter, scrawled on a wall or spray painted on a sidewalk or dug into the mulch of a playground, some part of me knows what it might mean. And the police never asked you about Jocelyn's disappearance? No. Why would they? Alec was the only one who knew I was at the park that day, and his memories had also been wiped clean by that weird music. I'm sure the police spoke to him and his mom, but there was nothing he could tell.
And you never saw the person playing the flute in the woods that day? You wouldn't recognize them? Even if you saw them again?
No. I only heard the music.
I see. Well, that settles it then. I'm going to start the process of waking you up now, Brady. When you open your eyes, you're going to forget about this entire conversation. And you will no longer be afraid of the letter X.
That distorting noise began again. I realized that whatever it was the key to Dr. Oberon's hypnosis technique. I listened until it finished. At any time, I expected to hear Dr. Oberon saying, "All done," announcing that the recording was about to come to an end. But instead, I heard a different sound. The clack of a wooden box snapping shut. The police didn't want to listen to some mentally ill 20-something's rant about his new psychologist. They didn't understand what the noise at the end of my recording might signify. Not being in education, employment, or training, however, I had all the time in the world. I was persistent. And in the end, they sent a token patrol to interview Dr. Oberon. When they arrived, however, they discovered something strange. The famous hypnotist was not in his office. Had not been for some time. The space wasn't even rented out in his name. It had been leased using the identity of a homeless man who had hung himself a few days earlier. As famous and well-regarded as Dr. Oberon had apparently been, no one could remember attending university or undergoing their hospital residency with him. His certifications, apparently, were fakes, and the man himself was gone. He took my phobia with him, but he left me with a different kind of fear. I often wonder if I was better off being afraid without knowing why. What happened to Jocelyn and the other missing children? How many other towns, parks, schools, and playgrounds have had their own little row of X's, without anyone there to uncover their secret? Why does the man who called himself Dr. Oberon mark his crimes at all? Is it a ritual or just his calling card? I don't have any answers. Except the ones that come to me in my nightmares. I sometimes dream of a massive, barren room. It's windowless, maybe underground, and it isn't quite clear where the light is coming from. The room is full of dancing children. I recognize Jocelyn, Cameron's little brother, the girl with braces from the woods. They haven't aged. They haven't changed a bit, apart from their eyes. Their eyes are inky black. In my dreams, they all turn to me, grinning from ear to ear, inviting me to join in their dance. Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/JordanGroupHorror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward. And if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you, which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow. And see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.